All right, so this part 2, where we'll be looking at the principles of design. Okay, principles of design. What are the principles of design? So these are the principles. We're having 12 principles of design over here, and the first one, or basically when we talk about principles of design, okay, we are looking at things which make, or some of the rules that you want to follow when creating designs. Okay, there's no rule in design making or in creating design. You make the rules, okay, but sometimes it's worth it taking into consideration what researchers or what people have actually found out to work. Okay, so we would be looking at some of these principles. The first one is what we call contrast. Okay, now it's one of the most graphic design principles, and every graphic design must dominate it. Okay, contrast refers to the difference between the elements in your design. For example, color. Okay, and for color, if in a color that if you use a dark color in one element, the other graphic elements will need to be a bit lighter. Okay, why? So that we can differentiate them from each other. Okay, so example, if you are creating a graphic design with a text and the background of your text is dark, and then the text color needs to be in a light color to make it easier to read. Okay, so this over here, that is contrast. Okay, so contrast, the color of the word contrast is let's say teal. Okay, that's a bit some blue and green inside, and so this gives us good contrast. However, with this, okay, it's giving us bad contrast. Why? Because the contrast color itself is a darker red. Okay, it's a darker red. However, this one is giving us this one is a lighter red. Okay, why am I saying lighter red? Lighter red because when we come to colors, we'll get to understand what affects colors. Color can be dark, color can be light, the color can be very saturated, the color can be very unsaturated, very desaturated, and then a color has its hue, or the difference in the pigments used in the color. And so you create contrast. You'd want to create contrast. Why? For readability. Okay, we are saying this is bad here, and I've also expressed that there is no rule to design, but someone may decide to do black and put a dark red inside, and would try and create something which is hidden. Okay, because the person will want to, that's what the person wants you to be thinking about. Why is it something hidden within? Is he trying to convey a hidden message? So that can be a creative part of design, where you either stick with the clear what we all want to achieve, contrast, or you can decide to not make contrast and actually use that as an element of design, or use that principle of bad contrast to actually achieve something. All right, next we have balance. Okay, so what is balance? Balance is where you know where to put your elements. Okay, and by putting your elements, it's meant to avoid all the heavy elements in the same place. Okay, we have different kinds of balance here, but the main ones are symmetrical balance, which will create balance by aligning equally weighted elements, and asymmetrical designs is the opposite, where you align a heavy element with lighter ones to create a contrast effect, or to create a specific look. Now let's look at this. So we have good balance here, where we've evenly distributed these balls or these shapes Okay, this over here, the second one here, is bad balance. Okay, bad balance. Why is it bad balance? It's bad balance because everything is shifted to one side. Okay, so so everything has been shifted to one side, being the left side. Okay, so in designing, okay, you would want to use balance, okay, or you would want to achieve balance at the end of the day. Now, if you didn't listen to anything, please take this slide very serious. Why? Because this is what would help us master good design. Okay, most designs, which, or maybe you may have started working on a design, but something isn't working right. You feel like, okay, nah, the design isn't work. Why? Because you lack the understanding of principles of design. Okay, now how do we, if you are looking at balance, okay, how would you interpret good balance in a design? Good balance is where you can have a flyer where, for instance, for this flyer, for instance, this is bad balance. But if this bad balance, I have two balls here. What if I place let's say this is a flyer and the flyer says JBSM Media Bootcamp. I can place my text in the middle here, okay, and that may still be bad balance, but I can decide to place the text at the right portion. So I can place text here at the right, and I can come and place another text here. For instance, I can place enroll now, and it will be at the right portion. This side may still be empty, but now I'm having text aligned to the right, balls over here to the left, text aligned to the right over here, and it becomes balanced. Okay, so you may have some elements of bad or some elements of bad balance, but you can balance it out. That's what you have to take note of. Next one is emphasis. What is emphasis? Emphasis is basically, so emphasis is basically where you want to make an emphasis, you want to direct our eyes towards the necessary thing. So with emphasis, if we take a movie poster, the first thing you would want to, or that the first thing that you need to see is a movie title, and then it can be the name of the director, and afterwards it can be the name of the actors, the actresses. If you want to know which ones are the best, like if you want to know how emphasis works, just search for movie poster designs, okay, and just try and understand the balance and how the emphasis works with it. Okay, you'll be able to get a clearer picture of that. Now, I would have loved to have a lot of pictures roaming in here, but I believe that once you go and search for it yourself, you'll be able to actually learn more. Okay, that's why the pictures aren't here, but we would later illustrate that for you. So that's for emphasis. Okay, next one is repetition. Okay, I'll take repetition and rhythm together. Why? Because these things can be a bit confusing. What is repetition? Repetition is repeating elements or shapes, okay, or repeating similar shapes. That's repetition. Rhythm is where you are repeating different shapes or objects in the design. Please, are we okay? So I'll take it again. So repetition is where you repeat similar shapes, but rhythm is where you are repeating different shapes. Okay, I'm using the element shapes over here. Remember, you've spoken about about elements, and so you can swap the various elements for what I've just said. So with repetition, we can talk about repeating color, the same color, okay, of a shape, or with rhythm we can look at probably repeating different or various colors. Okay, so let's look at what makes a good repetition. Let's look at what makes a good rhythm. Good repetition is where we have, for instance, we have circles here. Okay, just focus on the shape itself. Don't focus on the color yet. We have circles here being repeated. Over here we have a cube inside. Okay, now that can be over here. This is even balanced where we have 4 shapes here, 4 shapes here. Over here it's not balanced, it's asymmetrical. Okay, and it's bad doesn't mean that we can't use it. Sometimes you may want to use some of these elements of use these the understanding of the principles of design to illustrate something, or to even bring emphasis to the thing. So for instance, we can have a picture of sheep over here and we have one wolf inside. That becomes asymmetrical balance. That becomes bad repetition. So the sheep are being repeated but there's a wolf inside. So at that point the wolf spots the messed up the repetition, but then it still serves a good purpose. Okay, now rhythm is where you have rhythm you can associate rhythm with pattern. Okay, you can associate rhythm with pattern, so they are very related, but we would get to it. Okay, so you can associate rhythm with pattern, and within your repetition you can employ proportion, where proportion has to do with size. Okay, arrangement by size. So I can have this, for instance, is title. It's very big, it's bold. Why is it bold? Because I want to create emphasis on the word title. This seems like title. So, and I have my small circles over here. It's not taking the whole focus away, and it looks good. Why? It's smaller. But I may have something like this here. This is big, this is small. I can add various shapes to create an asymmetrical pattern. Okay, or make the shapes combine, let's say, big circles, small circles, just to create an irregular pattern. Okay, now with proportion you can play with proportion to generate like very nice things. How? We can start with creating the word title. So for instance, you have JBSN Media Design Bootcamp, 4 different lines. Okay, it's part of the activities that I will be giving you, so just take note. JBSN Design Bootcamp. So you can have JBSN being very small, design very big, bootcamp. I can have the word boot being medium size, and then I can have camp being big to fill here. Okay, then I can, let's say, mastery course, and I can make that one small. And that alone, I've used proportion, the principle proportion, to just place the word JBSN Media Design Bootcamp Mastery Course, and I've just employed proportion to do that. Okay, next we have pattern. Okay, pattern. So what's pattern about? With pattern, we are looking at repetition of multiple graphic elements on your design work. It's using multiple graphic elements, okay, on your design, which are working together to create an eye-catching and harmonious design. Okay, so that's about pattern. It's meant to create a harmonious design, and it's just repeated multiple elements. Now with rhythm, okay, we are looking at creating a visual rhythm. Okay, and you are having repeating elements of your design. Okay, that creates space between these elements. So you have rectangles, you have squares, you have circles, all within it, neatly arranged. Okay, maybe you can start with circles on the left, then different shapes on the right, but there should be that flow, there should be that rhythm created. Okay, and we know that rhythm employs repetition. So if yours isn't employing repetition, it means you are just probably making random design, random patterns. Okay, All right, so next one we'll look at would be hierarchy. Okay, so this is hierarchy. I spoke of proportion. At this point, some of the design elements may seem confusing, may seem the same, but just remember that at the end of the day, you wouldn't be okay. You wouldn't be doing okay. I'm coming to create a flyer. Proportion, okay, the proportion is good. No, what we'd rather do is that okay, I'm going to create a flyer. What has to be emphasized? My title. So you make your title very big. Do I need a background? Can I use breathing for my background? Can I use, let's say, repetition to create some sort of pattern at the bottom side of my background? Okay, hierarchy. How do I want my readers to go about reading it? Which one do I want them to see first? Okay, I want them to see the center first, and so you put the important things in the center. Then probably you want them to see the other details. Come and put it somewhere at the bottom. Okay, that's about that. Next one, we have movement. What's movement? Movement is where you want to create some illusion of movement within your frame. Okay, now the movement principle in graphic design refers to how the human eye interacts with your design, and the most important element in your design must first be must be the first thing people see, and after seeing it, your design needs to lead the viewers to the next important element. And so you don't want to create a design where you have heads scattered all over. Okay, what is the idea? Okay, and even if you have heads scattered all over, at that point you are looking at pattern or repetition, and so you may still need to put emphasis somewhere in the middle or so. You can use movement. How? Movement, so we have, let's say, if you are creating a magazine, okay, you may have one box at the left, a smaller box in the middle, then the last box at this end. Okay, and what's that doing? That's trying to let our eyes be directed towards the things we are looking at. Movement you can sometimes use shapes. So for instance, the roadmap that we are using, okay, from our one of the very early slides, for this roadmap, for instance, we are looking at we are having the shape direct our eye towards from the left to the right, okay, not from the right to the left. And why is it from the left to the right? Because of the shape that we've seen. Okay, so just know that these are how these elements are being used to achieve results in our design. Okay, I think we've spoken about all of them. There's also this one, variety. Okay, with variety, you are trying to add one or two shapes or multiple shapes together just to create some randomness, okay, some variety. So variety is used in design to create a visual interest to the viewer, and it can be created with different elements. What elements can we use to create variety? We can use color, we can use typography, we can use images, we can use shapes, we can use many more things. Okay, so just know that each of these elements, that color, typography, type or font, images, you can mix 2 or 3 images together, okay, either by manipulating them, either by combining them in a very desirable way, or we can use shapes to create the variety. And why would you want to use shapes? Is because sometimes you want to avoid creating a monotonous design, okay, and lose the interest of the viewer. If you are having a flyer, what's the name? A typical example of a monotonous design would be creating a Word document. There's nothing fun about that. Okay, it's just white and black. But to spice it up, you may want to start employing these principles of design, and you can employ these principles of design either to, for instance, the text. So you can just take text, then focus on the text, focus on the variety of the text by blending bold, italic, by blending thick fonts, slim fonts together, just to create variety within just the text. And then you can now look at the background. Do you want to use repetition? Do you want to use a pattern? Okay, so that's how you go about that. The last thing is unity. At the end of the day, everything should look unified. Everything should look as belonging to one. I can't have a flyer where I'm using cartoon images and then I go and blend it with real life images, and then I come and blend, for instance, pen drawn images together. It creates that distortion of view. Okay, it may be the visual look you want to achieve, but also it may not. Okay, and so when you make the designs, everything should appear as unified, everything should appear as belonging to each other. And so when you take color, if you are following, let's say, two colors, we want to use red and yellow. Once we are done with the design, we should have the red and yellow within the whole thing. Okay, and that will make everything just automatically look joined together. All right, also the fonts we are using, you have to make them unified. We can't be using Times New Roman and go and blend it with Comic Sans. It wouldn't be unified. Okay, I've spoken about image, I've spoken about shape. With shape, we can be using rectangles, rounded rectangles, but we wouldn't be using any edged shape, edgy shape object. Okay, so you can go with circles, rounded rectangles, but no triangles. Okay, and the design will look unified at the end of the day. All right, so those are the principles of design. This is an example of how balance looks like. It can either be this way, it can be horizontal, it can be vertical. Okay, this is contrast. So with this one, your eye just comes straight up to the red one. Okay, next we are looking at emphasis. Okay, by emphasis we want to emphasize some portions of the design, either by using the various tools, bold, or either by changing the way the font looks. You can achieve that. There's hierarchy, the way you would arrange your design layout. Okay, very important. Hierarchy is very important because that's what most of us get wrong and our designs are lacking. Okay, and we will come to hierarchy. With hierarchy, you can start by just using grid lines, and the grid lines will help you a lot. You have movement, pattern. You've spoken about proportion, repetition, rhythm, unity, variety, and space. Okay, next, there's also value. Okay, sometimes the audience we are looking at affect the design. Okay, so many factors have to be taken when developing a design, such as the age. What age am I designing this one for? Okay, what are the skills of the people I'm designing it for? What are their cultural differences? They say in Ghana, red is for funerals. So if I'm making a flyer and it's for red, it has more red. Is it going to look like some funeral? Okay, is it going to be appealing to people who are Ghanaians? Okay, stars may mean something bright, something catchy. Okay, can I use stars and twist it and make it mean something dull? Okay, sometimes those are the things that I look for. So when you're importing any element, just ask yourself these questions. All right, so you look at grade. Grade, very important. Why grade? Grade because grade is used everywhere. Okay, architects would use grade when they are drawing their plans. We would use grade to lay out our ideas first. Okay, and the grade would help you to make your designs well. Okay, so I'll show you an example here, but before that, with grids we have asymmetrical grid, we have symmetrical grids. And what are these grids? So these help us to know how to arrange the objects of our design. Okay, great, you appreciate great a lot great the more when you are doing magazines, when you are working on document infographics. Okay, but aside that, we also have grades that we can use for our normal design, everyday design. And sometimes it's imperative to get a grade first before starting. Okay, I'll brush through here fast because right now we are basically done with the main things of design. These are some of the fundamentals you want to observe too. We have symbols, we have icons, we have indexes. Symbols are, so for instance, this is a symbol. The horse is a symbol. Okay, the horse is a symbol, and this horse is visually representing a horse because it looks like a horse. The icon here is a graphic that represents the horse. Okay, as is the most is once you see the horseshoe, you know that okay, we are looking at a horse. Okay, but an index, it would be, for instance, the anvil over here. Okay, it links, or it's a link, okay, to the horse and maybe the blacksmith. Okay, although it can depict neither of them. So this fundamental, or this is one of the things that you would watch or want to observe in graphic design. You want to create a logo for someone. The person says, okay, I'm a blacksmith, I make horseshoes. You want to create a logo for the person. Do you use a symbol? Do you use horses? Or do you use horseshoes to represent it? Or do we blend the anvil? Or do we use the anvil instead? Something to sort of balance or compensate each of the ideas. Okay, so that's what we'll be looking at. We'll do more of that in logo design, but then know that icons, symbols, and indexes can be added to designs to make it very nice and attractive. We have honey over here. Now the honey here, this design over here, employs the use of text. It employs shapes. We have ellipses over here. We have some rectangles over here. We have half circles here, lines here. Okay, and we also have negative space being employed. Where the negative space is what? The negative space that we are seeing here is negative space as a result of the honey. Okay, so the B, we have a B structure, and this B structure we can know that okay, it's a B. Why? Because the bees have this shape. At the same time, this is the letter E. Okay, and so this spells out the word honey, Honey, and they are using negative space here by not necessarily writing E, okay, or adding the E, the stick for the E, but you can just figure out that okay, this is honey. Why? Because thirdly, the container contains something which is related to honey, something which is related to bees. That's the color yellow. This other one, this relates to the color of honey. And so once you see it, you know that okay, this is honey. Okay, so some of the things that you can employ when you are doing your design. We have appropriation too as well. What's appropriation? So appropriation is when a designer takes the style used in a design and applies it to a different or to another, often in a very different context to the original. Now I've seen this with most people designing. Sometimes it's artistic, sometimes it's nice, sometimes it actually works, okay, but sometimes too I don't think it's appropriate, or sometimes I don't think it's actually nice, but it depends on you. Now for instance, if you take this shower gel, okay, with the shower gel the designer employs over here, okay, we are having these shapes, funny shapes over here. These are cartoonish images, okay, and this can be used in probably a cartoon for children or something of that sort. But here we are using it for soap, for liquid soap, that's shampoo. So we can say okay, fine, this is for children, but this design honestly doesn't look anything like a shampoo design. Okay, if you'll be honest with me, you would realize that it doesn't look one bit like that. Okay, and so this person over here used the appropriation to do that. Okay, this is appropriate. Okay, it matches the theme and all. We are talking about something held, and we are having human head one side, and we are having it within the organ another side. This flyer here, I made this one for the campaign. Okay, and it was given movie clip, movie poster vibe. Why movie poster? The idea was that we want to catch people's attention. Okay, so people start looking at the return first. They see the ship or the boat, and they are wondering, hey, wow, what kind of movie is this? Is this a movie night or something? Then you see the post, then later you see GPSAKNST, you see Kwame Nkrumah logo here, and you are wondering, what the heck is this? Okay, this is typical of appropriation. Why was it being used? It's used because we want people to think it was a movie poster. Then later they start reading it and they find out that, oh, okay, probably it's a campaign that someone is doing. Okay, that will give you the hype. Okay, if however I was to design this using the normal campaign flyer look, it may not have gotten the hype that it got. Okay, so that's why sometimes you would use that. Sometimes, so this can be, and you can use appropriation very well when you have a fair idea of the different kinds of design ideas or the design trends out there. Okay, so we have movie themes, movie posters, we have for instance, it's like I see it as vocabulary. Okay, if I want to write about my experience on a vacation, I'll have to use the right vocabulary. If I have to write about what's the name, a story which happened in the courtroom, I'll have to use courtroom vocabulary. If I need to write about a medical video or a medical script or something, a medical movie, I have to use medical terms. Okay, and so when you want to create designs, you will also have to use some of the necessary terms. And so some of the terms that you want to use is probably movie poster, vintage designs. Okay, so you can have vintage design, you can have there are a whole lot aside vintage. I've mentioned movie poster. You have social media flyers. Social media flyers have a look to it. Okay, sometimes too you may want to look at the old they are called those wanted banners that in the country, those country movies they use for wanted. Okay, that kind of look has it's also there. Okay, so sometimes when you want to create some flyers, you may decide to borrow ideas from these things. Okay, I want it to look like a childish book or a children's book. What do I have to use? What are some of the key elements I have to use in there? Right, so you can decide to borrow how, for instance, someone is wanted in like the 50s, how those posters look like. You can decide to borrow that concept and use it for probably someone is having a talk, or there's a movie called Wanted. You can decide to borrow that banner idea for your movie poster or for your graphic design content that you are working on. Okay, next will be color theory. Okay, I'll do this in the next session. Thank you.